Getting irradiated at number 370, Speed 3, The Final Frontier. Or Juggernaut. In a basic reuse of the Keanu Reeves movie plot, Voyager must stop a Malon waste freighter before it irradiates light years of space. We have to ask ourselves, with all the jobs Neelix has had, revealing he spent 6 years on a Talaxian garbage scow, just how old is he, and just how creepy is it that he started this series in love with a 1-year-old? Anyway, he, B'Elanna, and a few others go clear the heavily irradiated ship deck by deck, all while being chased by a super mutant the Malon think are a myth. This is a solid action episode and gives Torres another chance to show us how badass she is, culminating in some cool special effects with our first look at a working sonic shower. Losing time at 369, reset button. Or clues. Here's an interesting mystery plot to follow with a ton of throwaway filler, like Gloria from Cleveland. It's an intro to fit Guinan into an episode which has no payoff or parallel to the main story. When the Enterprise encounters a race that wants to be left alone, they reset them except data to before they were encountered. Little details don't get reset, and the crew end up having to solve the mystery, going back and having to reset again or be destroyed. One of the most satisfying things to watch in all of TNG is a possessed Troy throwing Worf around. Picard really takes stock of everybody's advice in this episode more than others. A decent, mostly bottle episode with lots of conferences and people really working their stations. Starting a war at numbers 368 and 367. Prelude to War. Or the Vulcan Hello and the battle at the Binary Stars. I've seen these episodes a few times now, and I still find it hard to contextualize and rank them. Starting off with the again reskinned Klingons, I thought it was cool to have subtitles shifting from written Klingon to English. Though the next bit with Georgiou and Burnham walking the Delta Shield into the desert to somehow contact the ship that can't see them on sensors through a sandstorm? Anyway, the first two-part episode of Discovery does not have Discovery in it. We're introduced to the crew of the Shenzhou, some of which we'll come to know on the series' namesake ship later. A lot of the rest of the episode is kind of a jumbled mess of action for the sake of action, till Burnham tries to subvert the captain and gives unlawful orders to fire. Even though they never do fire, and Georgiou throws her in the brig as the Klingons truly make their presence known, she's now blamed for the entire Klingon Federation war, that the Klingons were going to start no matter what. But it's easier to pin the public's outrage over a war to a single face. This in general feels like a better action movie than most of the actual Star Trek movies. But for me it fails as a pilot. We're not truly introduced to characters' basics or given good reasons to care about the ones that survived this battle. I think the show would have done better to just set us on the prison shuttle from the third episode and then have this play out as a conversation between Burnham and Lorca later in the season. Bridging a Divide at 366, Prelude to Invasion, or In the Flesh. Voyager finds a recreation of Starfleet headquarters in the Delta Quadrant. Perplexed, they send Chakotay to set up a date with a nice lady representation of Species 8472. It's a pretty compelling watch, and one of the more decent episodes to feature Chakotay so prominently. It was nice to see Ray Walston in this final appearance of the Academy groundskeeper Boothby. Janeway's ability to defuse the situation through diplomacy is a very Federation way to end the episode. Finding personal boundaries at 365, Deadly Deal. Or Business as Usual. This one has a lot of analogies to gangster movies like Scarface, when Quark goes into the arms merchant business. The often mentioned and now seen cousin Gala, yes, the one with the moon, comes to offer Quark a position selling weapons for them. At the beginning of the episode, Quark has lost all his investments and is about to lose everything he's got left. So at his lowest point, the lucrative arms trade doesn't sound so bad. But he finally finds his own ethical limits when Cyrus Redblock wants to wipe out 28 million people just to send a message. He sabotages his own career as an arms dealer and puts the leaders of the opposing genocidal sides together in the same room. While a lot of cliches, nice evolution of Quark's character. Opening hailing frequencies at 364. Vipers in the Temple. Or destiny. When Cardassian scientists come to the station to test a new way to communicate through the wormhole, a Bajoran Vedic brings Sisko's attention to a prophecy that, like most prophecies, is misinterpreted. While in the Gamma Quadrant deploying their relay, they detect a comet headed for the wormhole. They do some technobabble to keep the pieces intact in its crossing. Turns out the prophecy wasn't about the Cardassians destroying the wormhole, but that the comet would keep the wormhole just open enough for communications to get through now. A win-win for everyone. Except the one Cardassian scientist that thinks O'Brien is flirting with her and ends up with nothing for her trouble. Another decent middle-of-the-road Bajoran episode. Closing out the block today at 363, Who Counsels the Counselor? Or Afterimage. In the first episode to feature Ezri, it seems natural to start with her talents as a counselor. Garrick's claustrophobia is acting up, and through some ups and downs on the road to recovery, discover that he subconsciously hates himself for helping Starfleet break Cardassian codes. And this manifests in his willingness to blow himself out an airlock to keep from feeling closed in. Meanwhile, Ezri is working through her own issues of a symbiont she never wanted. Worf does his typical sulking, frustrated Klingon thing and ignores her, which makes her want to go back to her position on the USS Destiny. Between Sisko using his intimate knowledge of Dax and Garrick's brutal honesty, it helps her get a new sense of purpose by the end of the episode. For a final season introduction to a character taking the place of a beloved character that died needlessly, this was done quite well.
Ah, computer.
That program is available.
Thanks, Major. Major. Thanks, Major.
Microcellular analysis is complete.
Thanks, Major.
Automatic defense procedures initiated.
Major.